night air was cold. A fire burned low in the courtyard. Shadows moved across stone walls as torches flickered in the distance. Somewhere within the high priest's compound, Jesus was facing his accusers, and Peter stood among strangers, warming his hands near the fire, trying not to be recognized. But only hours earlier, he had spoken with confidence. He said he would never leave him, never deny him. And now, the words he once spoke so boldly were being tested in the dark. Because courage spoken aloud can fade quickly when fear moves closer. It had begun with confidence. When the others questioned what would happen, Peter spoke boldly. Even after Jesus warned that they would fall away, Peter insisted he would remain faithful. And when the crowd arrived in the garden carrying swords and torches, Peter was the one who drew the sword and struck the servant of the high priest. But Jesus told him to put the sword away. He did not resist being taken. And slowly, the expectations Peter carried about that night began to unravel. Not all at once, but enough for fear and confusion to begin settling into the darkness. The garden did not remain quiet for long. Torches pushed through the trees. Voices rose in the darkness. Soldiers moved forward, and suddenly, certainty gave way to confusion. The disciples scattered into the night. Footsteps echoed through the garden. Commands were shouted. Fear spread quickly. Peter followed from a distance, close enough to see, but far enough to avoid attention. Jesus was taken away, and Peter realized the night was moving somewhere he never expected. The courtyard felt different. Not loud, not peaceful, but tense in a way that made every silence feel heavier. A fire burned in the center. People gathered around it, watching, waiting, speaking quietly among themselves. And Peter stepped into the crowd carefully. He lowered his head slightly, stayed close to the fire, trying not to draw attention to himself. Then someone looked at him. Then another. Recognition had not fully settled in yet, but it was getting closer. "You were with him, weren't you?" Peter hesitated, only for a moment. "I do not know what you are talking about." The first denial. Quick, direct. But the tension around him only grew heavier. The fire crackled beside him. Faces watched him more carefully now. "You are one of his disciples." "I am not." More firmly this time, more defensive. Then another voice spoke. "You were with him. I know you were." And Peter answered, "I do not know the man." A cock crowed, and Peter froze. Then the words of Jesus came back to him. Then the Lord turned and looked at Peter. Not with panic, not with surprise, but with full understanding. And in that moment, Peter remembered everything Jesus had warned him about. Every promise, every confident word. And suddenly, the weight of what he had done settled over him completely. The fire still burned behind him. Voices still moved through the courtyard. But Peter could not remain there any longer. He stepped away from the crowd, then farther into the darkness, until finally, he was alone. And there, Peter broke down and wept bitterly. But this was not the end of Peter's story. Because even after failure, God was not finished with him. Days later, after grief, confusion, and silence, Peter would see Jesus again. Not arrested, not condemned, but risen from the grave. And the same disciple who denied him would be restored by him. Not because Peter was perfect, but because the mercy of Christ was greater than Peter's failure. That night in the courtyard, Peter learned what many eventually discover. Human strength can fail. Fear can overcome confidence. But the grace of God does not disappear in moments of weakness. And for those who return to Him, there is still restoration after failure.